I'm Cate Moreland, and this is my video diary. So I'm starting this because I wanted to share with you all the crazy summer I just had. The story begins with an invitation from my aunt and uncle, the Allens, inviting me to spend the summer with them on Cape Cod. Who am I? Why is this important? I love to read. I love all things ghost stories, vampire stories, horror stories even. Before my summer on Cape Cod, you could find me either in my town's itty-bitty library reading every book they have, or in the one bookstore in my county 20 minutes from my house. I must confess, I am a very big Twilight fan. You're probably assuming that I spent my entire last summer before college partying, having fun, laying on the beach, getting tan. Do I look tan? What I actually did for a lot of the summer was work at this awesome coffee shop called the Pump Room. Lest you think I was only working or only reading books, I did make some friends. Good for me. So once I got invited to this trip, I was really excited. My mom helped me prepare. She was really excited for me to go too. She was actually really nervous to send me off, and she packed my bags with things like sweaters and hiking boots, and I was like, Mom, I'm going to the beach. What do you think I'm going to be doing? The fashion on Cape Cod is a lot different than what I was expecting. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to be wearing sweaters, but like I got there and everyone was wearing like cute shorts and flip-flops and tank tops. My aunt was convinced I needed to update my wardrobe, so one of the first things we did when we got there was went on a big shopping trip to all the cute boutiques. Never in my life have I had as many bathing suits as I have now. My aunt made sure that I had at least one for every day of the week, and then bonus ones for when we were doing laundry. Most of the effort my aunt put into making sure I looked super cute was because she goes to a lot of block parties and bonfires and beach parties. Honestly, our summer was full of them. I was exhausted. So we arrived on Cape Cod the last week of June, right before the big 4th of July party. So by the time it was 4th of July, the next week, I still didn't really have that many friends. So my aunt and I went to the block party together, and this was before a lot of her summer friends arrived on Cape Cod too. I think they were trying to avoid the traffic or something, so she didn't have a lot of friends there either, and I didn't have any friends at all yet. So we went together and awkwardly stood around eating our watermelon. We sat down at one of the picnic tables awkwardly with another family because it was packed near the beach, so packed. I didn't want to look that helpless. I didn't want to look like I was super new in town, but there was not really any way to avoid it. Ultimately, though, it was a really awkward party. I mean, you can't just walk up to people, at the picnic table on the 4th of July and be like, "Hi, I'm Cate, be my friend." It didn't work out. Finally, though, by the time we were going down to the beach to sit for the fireworks, the craziest thing happened. So my auntie was walking with her big beach bag, and this boy was walking pretty close to us with his massive, like ridiculously sized beach umbrella, which he didn't need it in the nighttime, but I'm sure it was from earlier, and a big sun chair, and he ended up whacking my aunt, and her bag fell and spilled. So we had to clean it up, and then this boy started to talk to me. So he asked me who I was, because he was like, "I don't recognize you. Are you just a summer person? Are you new here?" And so I introduced myself. I was like, "I'm Cate. I'm new. I just got a job at the Pump Room." So he invited us to sit with him, or he invited me to. My aunt at that point was going to go find my uncle and sit with him. So I went and sat with this boy. His name? Henry Tilney.
Henry Tilney. Henry Tilney.
Isn't that just the loveliest name you've ever heard? I sat with him. I was a little bit nervous. This is my first friend on Cape Cod for the summer. He was actually really funny, and it was so cute. He was like, "I'm not going to ask you the cliche get-to-know-you questions." And then at the end of the night, he was saying goodbye, and he was like, "Are you going to write about me in your diary tonight?" And at first I was like, who asks that? But I do have a diary, and I did go home and write about him. But I played it cool when he asked. So I went back to my aunt's house, and I wrote in my diary, Tonight I met Henry Tilney and I sat with him at the 4th of July fireworks, and it was magical. The next morning at breakfast, I told my aunt all about him. I told him that he wants to be a pastor, and that's what he's going to school to study. And she was like, oh my gosh, your mom will love this. So Henry was not the only person that I met 4th of July weekend. Enter Isabella Thorpe. I met her at the pump room when I was just leaving my shift. She came in all in a tizzy, needing to get her iced chai latte, and so I served her up. And then we started getting chatting, and as it turns out, her mom knows my aunt, and so we ended up hanging out for the rest of the day. She was really friendly, and we ended up strolling around arm in arm like Anne of Green Gables and Diana. We drove around in my car, and we went to the beach together. It was beginning to be a wonderful friendship. She took me to the drive-in theater. They have a super cute drive-in theater on Cape Cod, and they had a summer series of horror films, so it was perfect. We bonded over our love of vampires and ghouls and ghost stories, and of course Twilight. She recommended to me these older books like, what was it called? Something about Udolpho. She told me about her brother who loves old literature, and she said I have to read all these old classics if I like the new stuff like Stephen King and Twilight. She started to meet me every day after my work at the pump room, which was awesome and fun to have someone to hang out with and talk about books with. At that point, I thought I could stay on the Cape forever. I had a good friend. We would gossip together, sip our coffees, talk about books. Did this friendship last forever? You'll have to wait and see. Something else wild happened. My brother James ended up surprising me on the Cape for the summer. I think my mom was a little bit nervous about me being there without like a chaperone or, my big brother to take care of me. So he came and stayed the rest of the summer with my aunt and uncle. Get this. He had met Isabella. They were going to the same college and had met at May orientation. So when we bumped into James, they started talking and knew each other and were chatting and flirting. And I was like, oh my gosh, my best friend, my new best friend flirting with my brother. It was wild. So then James, my brother, had this awesome idea of going out for a drive, the 4 of us. So this is when I finally met Isabella's brother. His name is John, and let me tell you, he is the worst driver I have ever ridden with. I thought it was going to be fun because he had this really cool convertible car. I don't remember what kind, but it was blue and it was wild, and I felt like a Hollywood princess, classic with my hair blowing. But he was the absolute worst driver. There was hardly any pleasure in riding around. But at least he did talk to me a little bit about his book taste. He does like the classic old books. And I had read a little bit of them, so we did talk about that. But he was ultimately a little too attentive. I didn't want to talk to him.